All right. Welcome, everyone. Looks like we already got a couple hundred people flooding in, so we're just going to give it a couple minutes here before we go over housekeeping. But as you can see, we got Cuz Strickland and Toxey Hayes with us tonight to chat all things turkeys. So really what we want to utilize this as is just a chance for you guys to have a personal touch point with these two. Fairly objectively, two of the most accomplished and well-respected turkey hunters in the country. So I'm sure excited to learn from them tonight. So yeah, again, looking forward to answering questions. And well, we already got almost 1,000 people in here. So I'll wait another minute before I do some housekeeping here and until we kick it off. But Cuz, I know you've been out chasing some turkeys with some youngins. How's it been going?
I started in Florida with the wounded vets, and it was the last day I was there was 96 degrees. And this morning I took my middle and my youngest grandson, and it was 24 degrees. And the turkeys, I guess their gobble box froze a little bit. We heard a couple, but it's still kind of early down here. I've only been with the kids twice, but it's here now and it's on. Everybody's talking about the opening day. I'm thinking about not going in the morning. I just got my Fox vest and I ain't gonna have a chance to load it, but I think I'm gonna break that in on a special event. But I've been going since March the 4th, so I'm ready for a little break already.
Toxey, you got your tree picked out for the morning?
No, I do not. I'm gonna have to resort to history a little bit. I've been out a few times. Our big thing, one reason I don't travel much is that, Mr. Fox is still around. And although he's made a pretty big rebound lately, it's still pretty iffy that he actually gets to get out. He's so, he's just 92 and he's been having a lot of trouble with stuff. Anyway, my point is, there's a spot or two that we can probably get him to if he actually feels like it. It's definitely going to have to warm up a lot because he's freezing to death at like 70 degrees. So anyway, and I've got a golf cart rigged up. I think, that's going to give us a chance. I'm going to build a couple of spots where we can pull it up in like a blind. And, because we have to get him out and get him sitting on the ground and back up again. It's just too much for him now. And a rest.
Heck yeah.
But, my whole thing right now, just if I can just get him out and he's got his hearing aids in and he can hear one, and man, good Lord, if he could actually see one strutting and whatever, I mean, that would be so big right now. So he's just been, he's had a tough year. First time in his life, he didn't go deer hunting at all.
Well, I know all 1,000 of us in this webinar are cheering him on and waiting to see him with what would it be, his 76th year in a row with a turkey or something like that?
Yeah. The way it worked was this would actually be his 80th year because he killed his first one in 1944. But they take out the three, actually it would be 4 years total of his time when he had tuberculosis and he was in the hospital like flat on his back for years at a time, and they took out like 2/3 of one of his lungs. He's a miracle. So anyway, that's
crazy.
I got to tell this story. I went over there. He had a really bad night last night. Mom almost called the ambulance. She was so worried about him, and thank goodness she couldn't find her phone because then when he got up this morning, he was actually feeling better. But I went over there quick as I could, and they were still in bed because they'd been up all night. And I went back about 10:30, and there's a lady comes over to help him some, and I saw her. She said, "Yeah, they're up. He's a little better now. He's not hurting quite so bad." And I went back in the bedroom. There he was, and he was got out of the bed. He was in his chair. He's got a chair he sits up in a lot of times, and he was looked at me over the top of his reading glasses. He said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I've just come to check on you." And so I thought I'd cheer him up, and I had a mouth call. I just found one I like a pretty good bit, and I cut up on it and yelped at him and whatever. And he said, "You sound excited. You must have been out and heard one somewhere." And you could just see him light up. It just lit him up, I said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I did. If you'll get on your feet and get going, I know where we can go get on one." So anyway,
that's awesome.
That's my day too.
Wow. We'll definitely get more of a Mr. Fox story when you show us the goods behind you there. But I just got some quick housekeeping. to go over, and then we're going to kick it off and really get into the webinar with Toxey and Cuz. So appreciate everyone coming out. First and foremost, there's 1,000 people in this Zoom right now. So everyone, please be cordial. If you have, hey, I'm Bob from Pennsylvania, throw that in the chat. General banter is great there. What you've been seeing for turkey sign, so on and so forth. But then if you have questions, please throw them in the Q&A. That's the whole purpose of this webinar, is to give all of you guys a chance to, get that connection with Toxey and Cuz to answer your questions. And please try to keep them relatable. How do I hunt a turkey on my particular property? Those typically aren't going to get answered. So, the general, more higher level knowledge type questions will typically be the ones that do get answered here. So please throw those in the Q&A, and we'll try to get to all of them. Again, we really want to thank Toxey and Cuz for taking time out of their day. I mean, tomorrow's pretty much a national holiday, or a state holiday in Mississippi, I suppose, with the turkey opener. So we're right on the eve of it. So appreciate you guys coming out. And then the big announcement for this webinar is our buddies over at Weatherby have teamed up with us and Mossy to give away a Weatherby Element turkey shotgun in bottomland to somebody that is in this webinar. And so how that's going to work is you're going to have your choice between a 20 or 12 gauge of the Weatherby Element. And if you are in this webinar right now, you are already registered to win. And so we will shoot an email out tomorrow with the winner. So please don't email our customer service team asking if you've won. We'll let you know who wins. And then we'll contact you with an onX rep and a Weatherby representative to get you the information needed, your FFL and the whole nine, to put a shotgun just like this in one of your hands for the spring. And then additionally, if you don't win the shotgun, everybody in this webinar is going to get 20% off the Weatherby Element in bottomland camo. So that will also come in the follow-up email after this webinar tomorrow with all the details as far as the promo code, the percent off, and all that good stuff on how to execute the discount for that Element shotgun in bottomland. So I think beyond that, I mean, there's also, I guess I'm required to read the eligibility portion of this. So bear with me for about 30 seconds. This promotion is open only to legal residents of the 50 states of the United States and the District of Columbia who are at least 21 years old at the time of entry, void where prohibited and restricted by law. All federal, state, and local laws apply. Employees of Weatherby, onX, Mossy, and their family members are restricted from entry into their promotion. Participation in the promotion constitute entrance full and complete agreement to be bound by these official rules and by the decisions of Weatherby, Inc. So without further ado, I'll kick it over to you, Toxey, to kind of show off what's been the latest at Mossy. I think if you haven't heard about it, you've been living under a rock as far as the turkey world is concerned. But tell us about what you guys have got going on over there, because it's been nothing but impressive to see the rollout of it.
I don't even know where to start. I mean, I guess the number one thing I'd want to say is that obviously we several year project. Bunch of people kind of spearheaded by my two sons, but a bunch of other people. Mr. Fox Best, a lot of thought and effort and anticipation and all. I can't honestly find words to describe how much like fun and love from everybody. Just crazy. We had like over 1,000 people sleep at our store down here overnight, Thursday and Friday, to get in line for one. And it was the coolest thing. It was like Woodstock for hunting. And, Cuz was up there, and it was like, after it's all said and done, I was feared, whenever you get that many people together, surely someone's going to act stupid or something. Not an incident. Of course, we had a bunch of law enforcement people helping out to make sure, but I mean, everybody had a big time. They enjoyed this experience. I mean, stayed up there late talking to people and was there early the next morning with, breakfast stuff and whatever, just letting everybody know how much we appreciated it. And they were all just thanking us for doing it. And I said, well, you spent the night out here. And the guy's like, man, we had the time of my life. And guys patting his chest said, I've got 15 or 20 numbers from people that said, come go hunting with me. Man, I made all kind of friends, And so it was just, it was just honestly kind of a once in a lifetime thing for us to see that right here in our little hometown. It was just surreal. And the team we had, I mean, they went through, like 1,000 vests in like, I want to say less than an hour. They all checked out. It was such a smooth, well-oiled machine when we checked them out. Anyway, that was so cool. And to see the love, Daddy came up there. My sister drove him and my mom up there. He couldn't really get out of the car and all, but he was seeing all that. He was just totally overwhelmed. And I know we need to get on with the business of people's questions about turkey hunting, but I just have to say that, I've always said we got everybody's got a few, bad eggs, as my buddy Tracy Bird used to say. But by and large, people that turkey hunt and our whole community of people are the best people in this country. And I'm telling you, I go to the NWTF convention and I see that. And then I saw that this last week, and the people that came were it was amazing. Great people, families, kids, sleeping bags. I mean, spent the night at our little store down there. It was so cool. And just for everybody that is on here and everybody that turkey hunts, wear it with pride beyond just like killing one, because it is the special people that pursue this bird. I'm just telling you.
Show us the goods. Let's see what one looks like. I know you got one behind you there.
Honestly, I just did I don't do a lot of, y'all all know I'm not on social media or anything, but I just did a little kind of selfie thing because I walked out of the store and I just looked at and I had it like pointed back at me, and I was like, I finally feel like one of the chosen. I finally have a vest. It was like an hour ago, and I'm going to be in the process as soon as we get off of transferring everything from this, which, weighs about half the size of my, back seat of my truck. And I started pulling calls out and hooters and crow calls. And of course, the biggest thing for me is finding a mouth call or a couple of backups too that I really like. I'm pretty well down the road on that. I see a few things missing. I got a pair of gloves missing from the end of last year. And I got a box call. I'm worried I dropped it somewhere. It's not in here that was in there last year. So I've got some housekeeping of my own to do to get ready, but I'll do that afterwards.
Well, it's been really cool. There's multiple people chiming in.
I can do that every year,
Multiple people chiming in the chat with the numbers, the vest that they got. So that's pretty awesome. And for those of you asking where you can check it out, I'm going to drop a link right now in the chat just to the Fox vest at Mossy Oaks website. I do believe it is entirely sold out. Is that correct?
Yeah. And we had to actually even had a little mishap yesterday when we offered the last ones online. Some computer bot stuff got involved trying to take up too many, but they worked all night and all today, straightened it out. And I'm pretty sure everybody that got the receipt and all, they're taking care of all that. And that's it, as far as I know. Now, I did announce last week, and we're going to just kind of step back and be sure we do this right. But I just can't, and I told everybody, put it on me if if this bothers you and you've already got one. But it's just so many people that wanted one, and not just to resell them or whatever. They just wanted one because it meant something to them. And I know a lot of people, and we couldn't let them have one because we had to go through the process. And I got my one right here.
Yep.
So we're going to, and you'll see in the days ahead, we'll send out how to do this, but it'll do in short order. We're going to make some more. It's still part of a limited edition, one time only this time of year. But we just had to take a shot in the dark, and we did way more. I won't say any numbers, way more than we ever dreamed we'd sell, and they're gone. And so we're just going to give people another shot that want one. Now, there won't be any more numbered ones. That's done, and we got to honor that. Stood in line, they got a numbered one, and the rest of them, that's done. And so, but like a lot of people, I mean, they just want the vest. I could say of the people I talked to, and that's not a ton of people, but a couple of dozen about it, they were just like, if I can just get one, I would say only maybe 20% of them were worried whether it was even numbered or not. So, and we got to be sure and honor the ones, everybody who spent the night in line in Nashville, everybody that spent the night in here in West Point got a numbered vest. And that, to me, we kind of honored it with that. Awesome. So anyway, the biggest thing I said to everybody too, just I met so many people, signed so many things, just so many cool people. I said, they're going to put it up. They're going to put it in the shadow box. I said, do me a favor, please. if my dad was here, he would say, son or lady, whoever, go get some blood on it first. Go hunt in it. You know,
100%.
so that's everybody go hunt in it. Put it to use. It's a great vest.
Well, that's awesome. Kudos to you and the entire Mossy Oak team. It's been one of the coolest launches that I've ever seen, hunting industry or not. It's been super special. So yeah, kudos to you guys. And now we're moving into turkey questions, and I think we already have about 150 of them, so we shouldn't be short. And so the first link I'm going to post, and Cuz, I'd love to touch on it just a little bit, is Turkey Academy, because you've been such an integral part in it so far. But it's something that onX and Mossy Oak have partnered up to do. So Cuz, if you could just talk a little bit about what Turkey Academy is, and why folks should check it out. I just posted a link in the chat. But yeah, tell them about it.
Yeah, it's a lot of how-to stuff. Back in the day, we did some DVDs and stuff, Turkey School and all that. But there's a whole wave of new turkey hunters now, and sometimes it's like a rerun. You think nobody's going to watch it the second time. Well, there's a lot of young people who hadn't heard that good advice the first time, because nobody's trying to sell you anything or sell you on anything. It's just from hardcore experience, but. And, I've been with Toxey, I've been with all these great people, and you learn a lot and you see a lot. And I used to do seminars all the time, and the name of my seminar was There Are No Absolutes, because there are no absolutes. Everybody does it a little bit different. They use their strong points. Some people are more patient, some people call better and all that. But if you really want no nonsense, good advice, and there's a lot of advice out there, that's a cool place to do it. There's some great people on there, and just telling the truth. And, people love hunting stories. There's a few of them on there too. But, good advice in turkey hunting, now it's everywhere. Back when Toxey and I started, especially me, I'm older than him, there was no advice. I knew two people in my town that turkey hunted, the football coach and the guy that cut hair, and they wouldn't tell you what time of the day it was, much less anything else. But it's good, sound advice learned through experience, and that's priceless.
Awesome. Yep. Couldn't have summed it up better. So I threw that link in the chat. So go check out Turkey Academy. And first question I got going on is cold weather strategies. How are you playing these cold weather turkeys? If it was 24 down in Mississippi, I know there's going to be snow for quite a few openers just with the weather that we've had across the upper Midwest, the East and the West. So what are you guys changing up when it's cold?
Well,
Cuz, you go ahead.
I went this morning. I told you it was 24 degrees. I took two of my grandsons up, west of Corinth up there, and when we got up it was 24 degrees. And I told you I didn't get to that place in time yesterday to roost or look or anything, but I had dropped 2 pins on my onX map last year, so that's where we started. And you could tell that it was going to be a slow morning. There was crows and all kind of stuff. And I finally made a turkey gobble with an owl hoot, and he gobbled one time. And his partner over about 100 yards, he gobbled twice, but that was it. So to me, that just told me a lot of things. And Toxey will roll his eyes. I had the reputation of calling too much and stuff like that. But when you kind of just, like Will Primo said, you got to take their temperature. Nothing's going on, back off. You don't hear hinge yipping, you don't do nothing. You kind of got to make a decision then. Am I going to sit there and call a little bit in this 24-degree bad deer hunting kind of weather, or I'm going to go to the Waffle House and get some hash browns and scrambled and fried and all that? It's really tough. And Toxey will back me up on this. I have seen days, and I've heard him say this, it depends on what was before the cold weather. I've seen cold mornings where they just go crazy. This morning, it got so cold. We've had stuff in the 70s and 80s and stuff like that. And then bam, 24 degrees. And I'm telling you, it shut them down. So that's kind of what I did. I backed off, kind of kicked rocks on the way back to the buggy and put my calls up and said, you know what, this is a good place. I'm not going to just bump turkeys. That's the worst thing you can do.
Yep. I couldn't agree more with that. I've always said, and this is, I think I just tried to count 50 years, 50 something, 52 years maybe for me, listening and watching and listening to other people and all, and watching what happens. I would say that cold weather early in the season is not good. Cold weather late in the season actually helps sometimes. So I think it kind of flips, you know. What I would say is that, you know, any morning, it could be a cold morning, it could be windy and you can't hear, or bad weather. Although I think a lot of times they still go through the same routine in some of those rainy days, and you just can't hear them. But I guess the point is, if you know turkeys are there from your cameras, or you heard one gobble like Cuz did, just be glad for that and be patient, and don't, just like he said, the biggest thing you got the whole year, don't mess it up. Run around and don't base your hunt on gobbles. Cuz and I both, that's a bad fault both of us will have sometimes until we think about it, is we're basing our hunt on the gobbles. We call, we gobble. You know, we're making him gobble. It's so addictive, making them gobble. And then when kid quits gobbling, you think the gig's up. But a day like today is a day that don't judge anything based on did he answer right back or not. Just be patient. I mean, to me, unless you happen to have a place and you're just swarming with turkeys and you know where some more might be, I would just stay put. And the worst thing you do is what Cuz said, you could mess it up for the rest of the year if you're not careful.
Yep. Patience in cold weather makes a lot of sense. All right. Well, so in the name of giving away this Weatherby shotgun, we've got a number of gun questions as far as, you know, what gauge of guns are you guys running? 410, 20, 12, and what's your preferred gun in the woods?
I don't have anything but 20 gauges, except I had a 410 that I had kind of done up for my youngest grandson, Cranky. All of them, I think all of them killed a turkey with that 410. It's not a special gun. I think I bought it at a pawn shop and then had it choked, you know, and we put bottomland tape on it ourselves and all that kind of stuff. But they're all shooting 20 gauges now. And you know, I had a soldier the last day of the hunt down there in Florida, and it was an hour-long ordeal laying in palmetto and stuff, and I didn't have a good hang on one. I said, the turkey's gonna leave, go ahead and shoot it. And Keith Kelly, one of the turkey thugs, he looked at me and he said, no way. And I said, he can kill him from there. I was thinking it was about 50 yards, which was ridiculous distance way back in the day. And when he shot it, it ended up being further than that, and he just tanked it. And when I got out there, I asked Keith, I said, would you ever carry anything heavier than a 20 gauge? He said, no. I know a lot of people shoot 12 gauges, but I got a match set of them little SX4 Winchesters in 20 gauge and that TSS 9 shot, and it's crazy. And you'll hear some people say, oh, you don't need to kill a turkey in 100 yards. And I was like, you know what? I understand that. But my encounters with my grandsons, or me for that case, are so few down here in Mississippi. I want to be the best I can be, and I don't intend on shooting a turkey at 80 or 90 or 70 yards, but a 20 gauge with that those APX 9s it's just crazy.
Yeah, I'm kind of a 20 guy now. I've always been a 12 gauge guy, and I've always said that whatever was the best chance that I wouldn't like let one get away, wound one or whatever. And I just felt like more shot gave you a better shot at it and all. But, you know, if you do your homework today and with, you know, like you said, with TSS shot and you get it dialed in, that's all you need. And it's so light and it's, you know, so I've gotten where I really enjoy hunting with the 20 also, but I have both and I have them both dialed in, you know. But with it's just incredible how it's changed. What's so impressive to me about TSS is not super tight, or because I've seen before that some of the lead shot in the past, some really great ammunition companies have great bullets and they're really tight, but they had a lot of flyers and stuff. The thing about TSS is that there's such a perfect even distribution of shot. So, you know, honestly, I've moved back away from a super full turkey choke. I'm shooting like an improved modified, and it throws
Really?
gorgeous pattern at 40, 45 yards. I mean, the problem is, a lot of times you're hunting somewhere and, a turkey's, before you could do anything about it, he might be 20 yards. And, you're shooting something with a super tight turkey choke on a 20 gauge. You're shooting something maybe the size of your fist, maybe, and you might completely miss him, or to not miss him, you got to body shoot him. Or so, I mean, I'm gonna, depending on where I'm hunting, I'm gonna switch back and forth. I've got a 12 gauge, super tight. It'll roll them at a crazy distance. And I've got, for the most part, in most instances, hunting in woods and stuff, I'm gonna hunt with a 20 gauge with that improved modified. It shoots a great pattern.
That's really, you're the first person I've ever heard say that, as far as in regards to TSS. So now when I go out and pattern my turkey shotguns this weekend, I'll be trying that.
Well, here's the other thing to think about, because with the little red dot sights, like, when you're getting old like me, or, I'm not picking on Cuz, but he is older than me, and your eyes aren't the same. Those sights are incredible, but go shoot them. If it's dead on at 25 with TSS or heavy, you get on out there, they're dropping some, compensate for that. But when you're up close, it'll shoot low, because where you're aiming. And so, if one gets right on top of you and you've got something, literally smaller than the size of your fist for a pattern, you're in trouble. So I don't know. I've had that same issue too. So I just wanted something with all those pellets they have in them now, that even distribution is a big deal to me. So, and then that's what also for a gun that Daddy shoots, that gives him a little more, if he's a little shaky, he's got a little bit better pattern, because he's not going to shoot at one over at the most 35, maybe, max 40 yards. Yeah. Anyway,
no, that's really good insight. I love that. All right, Toxey, they teed this one up for you. What types of fairly easy habitat improvements do you suggest for turkeys?
I've learned so much in the last couple of years. I mean, I've been messing with it all my life, and I'm a big nest predator control person, and I'm a big burn person. I do all of those both every year. But what I've learned is, and I'll take a second to say this, but is that the habitat, they're calling it early successional. So like if you have a hay field with a few little trees growing up in or something, just let it go. I mean, maybe you got to waste a little ground that you want to clean up, but lay off the bush hog, especially not until August or something. If you've got some stuff growing up, but they're talking about like the first 1 to 5, 6, 7 years of habitat just coming back on its own is what's called early successional. And I just want to point this over to a podcast the other day with a professor from Oklahoma State, brilliant guy, expert on Rios. And he was talking about, we got off on quail, which is so similar, and we lost quail so many places. And I grew up when there was a lot of quail, and I witnessed that. It was so sad. And I always live in fear. That's why we're pouring so much money back into research at Mossy, because we want to make sure. And I feel good right now that we're going to find a lot of answers, and we're doing good, and our turkeys are resilient. But we need to make sure that doesn't ever happen. Well, one of the things he said, he had talked about going quail hunting, and there's a lot of quail in like South Texas and places out there. A lot of quail in Oklahoma, and I was like, it's so arid. Why can you raise them and we can't? He said, well, if you think about the habitat piece, early successional. Our habitat in the soils are so arid and poor, our stuff can never grow out of the first successional stage. Just shrubby, brushy, grassy, clumps of stuff everywhere mixed with grass. And so they have perfect habitat, and no matter how long they leave it there, it can't become, less than habitat. So, wide open fields, bush hogs are no good. Big open timber is really no good. Parts of those are fine. But you got to let some stuff grow back up and be natural. Before they hatch, you need places a hen can nest that she's hidden, but she can see. So that's kind of hard, but if you can envision that. Then when poults are hatched, you need something where they can see. I mean, if you put your head right down on the ground like a poult's running around, it's clean enough they can get around and see something coming, but also gives them something to flutter up onto. It also helps to have like a canopy over it where hawks and owls and stuff can't get to them. So, again, that's hard to really describe on something like this. But I would say the easy answer was pick some spots and leave off the bush hog. That'd be a great start.
Love it. All right, so there's some questions around like scouting as far as getting out into the woods before your turkey season. Distinguishing gobbler versus hen sign, because I know you went in on that on Turkey Academy. Can you talk a little bit about what your guys' routine is, prior to turkey season, what you're looking for?
The scouting for turkeys is 365 around here. I have a limited amount of spots I can go to, so I'm looking at them all fall. I've kind of become more of like, I hate encroachment more than I do knowing exactly what trees in. So the places I get to hunt or take the grandkids, I may go listen a little bit. I kind of know where they're going to be. Now, last year or year before last, me and a buddy of mine, we went to Nebraska, hunted a big, huge chunk of public land. And we only had like an afternoon, a whole day in the morning. Well, we spent pretty much 7 or 8 hours that first day looking, for tracks and stuff like that. You want to kind of start in a good place, but scouting to me has changed a lot because of all kind of stuff. I mean, onX, I was telling you a story. I dropped a pin a year ago that told me where to start this morning. Those turkeys, if they're not bugged, they're not going to go far. The private land people who are blessed to hunt on private land, I don't think they have to scout that much. They're so into habitat and making sure they got everything they need. Public land, now that's another deal. You watch whoever Dave Owens and those guys, and they're up in them mountains in Georgia. Yeah, you got to go find some fresh, scratching in the leaves and all that. And that's the only way to do that. It's boots on the ground. But for me, I'm doing long distance listening, pop them tetras in, sit in a spot, listen, and just drop another pin. That's kind of what scouting is to me these days. Anyway, I don't do a lot of public land. Grew up hunting public land, the home of Chitta National Forest. You had to really do a lot of walking out there. But them days of me starting at the trailhead and going up, they're over.
Touch on a few things, as far as tracks go or scat goes. Like, how can you distinguish gobbler from hen in regards to that?
Well, the people argue about deer tracks and all. It's very obvious on a gobbler track. His middle toe is going to be, very much longer than a hen. They almost look equal, or not quite. A gobbler track, his middle one's going to be, whatever, ½ inch longer, deeper in the ground. The droppings are real easy. A hen dropping scat looks like an ice cream cone, and the gobbler is always going to look like a J. That's real easy to see right there. The good thing about finding scat or turkey droppings is that's a good spot. They don't defecate as much as a deer and everything else. So if you're finding scat, they're feeding there. There's some clover nearby or bugs or whatever it is. So yeah, the J versus the ice cream cone, and the middle finger is going to be long. One thing people overlook sometimes too is strut sign. I'd rather see that than anything, where they drag their wings on the ground when they're strutting. That's a sure sign you need to be standing there the next day if the seasons are open where you're at.
The one thing I'd want to add to that is any of those situations, any of those signs, man, keep a free camera or two handy at all times in your truck, or maybe just take one in your vest in case, and pop that camera up. Those are the most amazing scouting tools now, especially, in some places it's hard. If it hadn't rained in a while, it's hard to tell how fresh sign might be. For me, and still, even with cameras, my number one scouting tool is always my ears. I'm like Cuz. I want to, because I feel like in the dark of the early morning, you can slip in somewhere and listen and cover so much ground on what's going on. And plus, that's what I love to do, is go after one that's gotten good already. But you can cover a bunch of ground, listen, all that, and then slip out and not disturb your place much. So I'm big on using my ears as listening to. But I love, especially now that it's starting to green up and there's bugs now. I looked at across the field when we were burning it's been so warm 2 weeks ago, and it was absolutely covered in little black crickets. Just little baby crickets that hatched out all over. And I know the turkeys are going to be wearing it out. I already know ahead of time because that's 10 more days from now before that one opens. But I popped the camera up there and I've got pictures of turkeys and I've got pictures of hens in that field right now.
Nice. Well, on top of that, you both mentioned that listening is your top strategy. Got some questions on locator calls. I've heard guys in the West using coyotes, crows, owls, obviously are popular. What's your guys' go-to locator call, and how often, will you use that in a morning?
Well,
I mean,
for me, it depends on if you're hunting or scouting.
Go ahead, Craig.
We're hunting now.
All right, we're hunting now. Look, everybody. I'm in Texas. You can do a coyote. I would never personally do a coyote call around here. I just think it's detrimental to everything that's going to happen for the rest of the morning. And I can do them. I mean, I can do it on a tube call. I don't think I've ever done it. I've done them in Texas. The older I get, the more I kind of just want to, and I have a time limit, but I kind of want it to open up on its own, and you can tell pretty early if it's going to be a good morning, the red birds, the whippoorwills, the crows, everything starts. And if I hadn't heard something in 5 or 6 minutes, I'm on owl hoot. I used to do it with my voice, can still do it, but I got an owl call now that's just perfect, and that's the best locator call for me early in the morning until my rubber band gets so tight it busts, and I'm gonna move to another turkey sound. But I like that owl. I know Toxey does too, but Toxey uses a crow call more than me, and he loves that. But he does either one of those, and it takes a little more for him to switch, I think, to a turkey call.
Yeah, I just there's a lot of good locator calls. I mean, obviously the more sudden and the loud it is, as long as it's natural sound, probably the better. It's not a magic formula of owl versus crow. I do like the crow call some mornings. It's just, you have them both. Sometimes the owl hooter, they don't respond, and sometimes they do. And, so it gives you one more thing to try. The one thing I would say real important about locator calls, though, is that is more not as much at daylight, but up in the morning. Whenever I'm easing around trying to locate one up in the day, and I'm a crow call guy then too first, but I mean, always try to locate one without calling a turkey sound if you can, and if not, hey, do what you got to do. But when I always say, once you yep at them, once you cut at them or whatever, Cuz blows that tube call, the meter's ticking. You haven't got a lot of time on a hot turkey to get set up, find your tree. If you got someone else with you, get them set. So it's always a luxury to be able to locate one. If he was just actually what Daddy would call him, freelance gobbling. If he just gobbles on his own, that's actually the best of all things. But if you have to try a crow or something, the hawk calls are good. I've used hawk calls before. Daddy always used blow a crow call. They'll work. Pileated woodpeckers. I mean, different parts of the country. I mean, you go out west and blow a crow call, they don't know what it is. I mean, so I don't know that there's an edge, but I would say advice would be always try to locate one with a locator call that's not a turkey first, if you can.
Yeah, a couple interesting comments. Woodpecker was mentioned, and Canadian goose was also, or Canada goose, excuse me, was also mentioned in there. Those are interesting ones.
Wood duck whistle. I've seen someone use a wood duck whistle before.
Interesting. All right. So I know there are no absolutes, but the number of time that this question has been rephrased has been a lot. So you hear a turkey on the roost on the limb there. How close are you trying to get to that bird?
Man.
Yeah. Go ahead. You go first.
There's no absolute. I mean, that is where you are. That is answered by where you are. I mean, you got to have enough experience at least to know. Just look. I mean, hopefully you're not. The kind of place it is already. Is it the first of the year? There's no cover. Is that loud? Or you making noise when you make a step? Is you cracking leaves, sticks? But so it just depends. I mean, in general, I err on not crowding them because. I know if I mess it up, I'm done, and I don't want it to be done. So, if you know what you're doing, the place you hunt, you know you've got cover, you're not making noise, getting up closer could be really good, you know. But I would be really careful about it. I know that in a lot of places this time of year, without the leaves, you can see 300 yards easy if someone was trying to tip through there. And I guess if it's really dark, you can get closer too. You know, one thing is different. If you were to roost a turkey, you know, right where he is, that's different. You go in the black dark, try to get close, be close enough, maybe, you know, you could kill him when his feet hit the ground. But in general, I let the terrain tell me, you know, is there, what's in the way, you know, how quiet can I be? And you just have to make that judgment, you know, on the ground at the time.
Yeah, I'm like Toxey. He always says, I don't trust him, and I don't trust him either. You got to stop thinking, you know, they got eyes as good as a hawk and they can hear like an elk, and they're up in a tree 100 feet or 200 feet. And you take that vantage point. So especially early in the year when there's no leaves or anything. And man, I'm like Toxey, I will in a heartbeat err on the side of staying too far away, because it doesn't take much, especially on these evil Eastern turkeys, and they're all a challenge and all like that. But yeah, I'd rather err on the side of staying too far. One of the best guys then at Bent Creek Lodge, I went with him a bunch of times, and he would never commit and sit down until the turkey was on the ground and he had kind of a direction. Now that's a little different, and you got to be able to move fast and quiet, but that's just how he did it, because you got to stop thinking. Now they had clients every day. They had the same land. It might be a big chunk of land, but they had to go back and back. So the last thing he wants to do is bump one and educate a little bit. So I'm like Toxey. I like err on the side of staying too far away, especially early in the season.
So kind of snowballing off of that, you know, if you had to choose your most successful 2-hour time frame of the day as far as calling in turkeys, you know, would it be daylight to 8 a.m., you know, 8 to 10, 10 to noon, sometime in the afternoon? Give us your guys' favorite 2 hours of the day to be in the turkey woods.
I can give you an example. When I shot the video, The Truth, which turned into a cult movie, Toxey was on there. I think there was 12. I think there was 12 hunts on that. Now, granted, the cameras were bigger and all that, but out of the 12 hunts, I think maybe 2, probably 1 were right off the roost. By the mass majority has always been like 9 to 11, 9:30 to 11:30. That's my favorite time, and that may be because I stay too far away from the roost. But there's a lot going on at daylight. It's kind of rare to call one right off the roost and pitch down to you. So I relate it to, they're doing all their business and stuff, and then you go through that lull, and all of a sudden he's strutting and looking around. He's by himself, and that's when you might get one of them freelance gobbles Toxey was talking about. But as far as just not keeping records, but remembering when most of the turkeys I was filming got shot, it was like, but for me, by far, like 9 to 11 o'clock, somewhere in there.
You know, I looked back on it and before asked that a lot, and I've still had, you know, I've just bluntly, I've killed more turkeys early. I really have. Now, as far as striking one and having the best chance at it and maybe the most fun hunt of really calling one in, making one stand on his head, yeah, up in the morning, no doubt. But I've killed a lot of turkeys, and I hunt mostly on my own place, and I kind of know the place. And I've killed awful lot of turkeys right off the limb. In fact, even some, you know, whatever, henned up or bad or whatever turkeys, but just because they just flew down before everything else, and for just a 5 or 10 minute period, they were vulnerable till the rest of them hit the ground. So I don't know. I wouldn't trade off any of them, but I still am addicted to that first daylight, first gobble, and being there for that, actually.
Yep. All right. So a couple tactical questions here that have come through in a variety of phrases. I'd love for one of you to touch on the call through method, and the other one of you to touch on using topography to your advantage when setting up on a turkey.
Either one, cuz I can go either way.
Toxey's a big call through guy. I mean, and it works. You know, that's how the Primos guys finally started killing a lot of elk. And, you know, they'd get 75, even 100 yards back there, and that guy could move and pull and all that. And I know this, Toxey knows that. You probably know this too, Jared. A turkey, when you call, he knows within feet of where you are. So yeah, the getting somebody, but there's a lot of issues right there. Number one, when you leave a guy sitting up there by the tree, you got to trust that he ain't going to yelp, not one time. And that's asking a lot. From some people can do it and some people can't. You know, if they're focused on the turkey, that's good, because if he yelps, then, you know, if Toxey drop back 50 yards or 60 yards and somebody calls or whatever, that kind of negates the whole tactic. But it is a great tactic, because then the gunner, whoever, he can just kind of be looking for the turkey, especially if you guys behind you, maybe over to one side. And then you got to trust him to know he's going to shoot just straight in front of him, a little bit like that. And there's no turkey circles. I know Toxey's had to call turkeys behind him 100 times doing that. Am I right?
Oh, I mean, just
hey, Toxey, quick paint the picture of what the call through method is for folks that don't know.
Yeah, so it's really just, you know, after years and years and years of going out by yourself or taking a buddy and you sit together and turkeys hang up at 60 yards or 70 yards, just like, you know, everybody knows. I mean, so if you've got the call through and method, let's just say, and I'm calling and my gun's like 50 yards in front of me. Well, when that turkey hangs up at 70 yards, he's dead meat, because that guy's got him at 20 yards. That's basically the thing. You'll be surprised though. I actually, when I know who I'm taking, I want to be sure they can kill the turkey. And I don't want to even be tempted. I'll leave my gun in the truck, because I cannot tell you how many times I've got someone 40, 50, 60 yards in front of me, and the turkeys get around them and get in my lap. I bet it's happened a dozen times in the last couple of years, taking daddy. When he'll sit with somebody else and I'll be calling from 50 or more yards behind him, and he never had a shot, and the turkey was 10 yards from me. It's crazy. But it is a fun and deadly. I love it because it takes the pressure off me, worried about getting the gun up, getting the shot off and all that. I love being the caller and the call through and watching somebody up there squirming, you know. The one thing, a couple of pieces of advice, I'm going to add to what Cuz said a little bit. I always didn't want that front person to call, but you hunt with a lot of people. I'm taking Cuz and he's up front. I'm going to tell him not to call. That's crazy. But what I would say is, hey, if you're going to call, hey, you got a minute. When we first sit down, if you want to, you know, and that gives an impression of two or three different turkeys there. But once you sit down and once a minute or so's up, then you shut up. And then it also gives the impression that I'm maybe moving away a little bit, you know, when the calling of the back guy's further away. The other thing is just a little rule for people when they buddy hunt. Be so deadly careful. I mean, so careful about everything. That's why, you know, it's often best for the back guy to not even put his gun up, just lay it off to the side or something, just to be safe. And then another thing is, so you've been working a turkey and he's quiet. How long do you wait before you get up and move and all? That's up to y'all. I've started, you know, I never get up and walk up to the front guy, because he might be looking at the turkey. I mean, it might be coming. I've seen that happen so many times. When they start coming, they shut up sometimes. So I would say, well, before we sit down, I'll say, Cuz, hey, I'm gonna, you know, because if we're just calling, I'm not hitting a crow call. If you hear me crow call back, and I'll know it's all clear. So I was just one piece of advice. Just don't jump up if you're the guy calling back and run up to your guy in front, because he might be looking at him and you might mess the hunt up.
Super good piece of advice there is, having that, that, you know, that sign to say, hey, we're getting out of here.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So the other thing I would like you to touch on is the topography thing. Like, I know, you know, I know you guys have some thoughts there, so let us have it.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that one real quick. I'm trying to make it simple for people so they can just think that when they're in the woods. And then the best thing is, you know, you get out and you get more experience, and you don't even need to listen to me, because you've learned on your own. But one of the big things is, can you be, in other words, when he comes to the first point, he could actually see to where you are, or see to the calling, or think he can see. is it, if you gotten yourself close enough to shoot to that point. So if it's a ridge in front of you and he's over that ridge far enough, I want to get to where when he tops the ridge to see, I can kill him. Or if he's in a field or somewhere, as soon as he gets to a point where he can see into where I am, that's why I think it's best on field turkeys to never sit at the edge of the field, but maybe 30 yards in the woods. So they, they're okay. Okay, I guess I can't see them in there. But that would be, if you're hunting in a thick place, it's so much better to hunt something that you really can't see good over about 50 yards because they got to get within gun range to check you out. So just keep that in mind. Can you get to when he gets close enough to check you out, you can kill him. If you can do that, that's using topography or thickness or whatever to your benefit as far as the calling part. There's a bunch of other stuff because you can take it from there as far as just hunting in general with topography.
Yeah, here's one thing people overlook, and we don't, because we were mossy oaking way back in the day, but I always worry or think about what's behind me way more than I do what's in front of me.
Absolutely.
If he comes to a point and he knows that hen was right there, if he can see 100 or 200 yards behind you, he's going to surmise like that there's no hen there. Where you sit down, man, that's an art right there. And I know a lot of people hunt blinds. That's cool. When my grandkids were little, I'd put them in a blind. But as far as just the way we love to do it, sit down on your cushion, pull your knees up against a tree and blend in. You got to kind of think of what's behind you. I love to get down a little bit. Maybe there's a cane thicket right behind me or a thicket of pine trees, something like that. I don't want him to be able to see behind me. That's a big, big terrain thing right there for anybody.
That's a good one. Yep.
Yep. That makes a ton of sense. All right. It's been asked at least 20 times, decoy setup. So you guys run in just a hen, just a jake, just a gobbler, a combo. What's your favorite decoy setup?
Cuz I might let you take that one. I don't.
Toxey don't use decoys. You got to understand we're old school, and it's not like you look down on anybody use them. I don't care. Like when I took my grandson this morning, I had 2 decoys hanging on my back. Whatever it takes.
Yes.
This is my take on decoys, and I've been with hundreds of the best turkey hunters there is. To me, they're always all or nothing. They either see it and they charge in, or they see it and then they start eyeing it, and they don't. Sometimes I had one in Florida, a guy stuck a decoy out and them turkeys circled us for 45 minutes. And the only reason that I could surmise was they didn't like that decoy. So here's the deal: you do you, I do me. I don't use it if I'm going by myself. I love the challenge of picking that right spot, making sure that terrain's good back there, and making myself not call too much and stuff like that. That's my take on it. Do I carry him sometimes when I got other people? Absolutely. It's not like we look down on anybody for doing it. To me, the challenge is more when I'm by myself. Let me see if I can set in a good enough place where I can do it. Just old school.
Yeah, I've been in all kinds of setups. I haven't actually used like a strutter decoy much, but I will say there seems to be a little difference in how the things that work in different parts of the country. I'm not sure if decoys actually ever spook turkeys, but I know they gave them a wide berth, like Cuz talked about. And it could just be, it's just a turkey that's just a chicken, that's scared of getting in a fight or whatever, even if we had just a little jake decoy, a lot of places, jakes are the meanest thing out there. So you just never know. I've seen them, I've seen it work a ton, especially love the greatest benefit to me, besides, the fooling them with the look of it, is if you got someone like a kid or like my daddy who's 92 and a half, he has no field of movement at all. It's going to have to come up right down his gun barrel. He doesn't have a prayer of swinging and getting a shot off. So you can kind of predict, you think at least, where the turkey might come up. That helps a ton with kids or first timers, or obviously someone older like daddy and all. But it's hard to say. We've used like 2 hens and a jake, I think, most of the time, or a hen and a jake, and it's worked and it hasn't worked. So either way, I don't know that I would be the definitive expert on that. I do think it's going to matter where you're hunting. I think if you're hunting a place and people have used, you're in a club with a bunch of guys and everybody's using decoys, they're going to be decreasingly effective over time if you use them, because nature's going to adapt no matter what we throw at them. So I don't know.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We're going to answer a couple more questions here, but we're almost about time. And I know Cuz has that early bedtime in case he does get up for the morning on opener there, but we're going to post a giveaway link in the chat right now. So make sure you fill out that giveaway link if you want a chance at this here Weatherby element in bottomland to hunt your turkeys with this spring. So fill that giveaway link out. It's only going to be available for those of you in this webinar. We'll post it a couple more times throughout the next few minutes. All right. Favorite recipe for after a successful hunt with your wild turkey?
I think we're gonna be the same on this.
Yeah, there's so many good ones, but you cannot go wrong with fried turkey breast. And one thing I have learned in the years of doing it in a long time is one of the secrets to great fried turkey breast is soaking it in buttermilk. Wouldn't you say, Cuz?
Oh, absolutely. 1-inch chunks, soak it in buttermilk. And here's something that'll put it over the top. You fry it just like you do chicken. You got to have a good side. My favorite side with fried turkey breast or turkey nuggets is cheese grits. But if you want your wife to kick you out the door and say, go hunting, or your husband, whoever, mix you up some homemade, what I call Russian dressing, which is half mayo, half ketchup. And when those nuggets are hot, you dip them in that. And I'm telling you what, it's, I ain't gonna say it's psychedelic, but that's about as good a wild game eating as you can ever do right there.
It's my whole family's favorite.
Yeah.
My granddaughters are like, Papa's cooking turkey breast. It's like they make, they stroke my ego, and I love doing it. It is the most delicious. I use, not that it matters probably, but I use canola oil. You need to get something good and hot. Especially, I forgot the temperature we get it up to, but I think it's like 450 or 500.
Yeah, doesn't take long. Just marinate it an hour or overnight, doesn't matter.
Yep. But yeah, the buttermilk thing, and then I use salt, pepper, and some lemon pepper. There's other things, but honestly, with a good dose of salt and pepper, it's probably enough. But I like a little bit of lemon pepper too. I like a little bit of Cavender's. But fried turkey breast, marinated in buttermilk, it's unbelievable.
No contest.
Well, I think you have about 200 people in the chat absolutely agreeing with you. So apparently the opinion is popular. All right, I'm going to leave you guys with one last question, and I'd like you guys to talk a little bit about what you're doing with your turkey stamp, because there's multiple people that are asking if you are doing the turkey stamp once again this year, which I'm guessing I already know the answer to, but I'd love to hear a little bit of background about where that money's going and what you guys are doing with it.
So,
hey, Toxey, before you answer that, let me say something about Toxey. From the get-go, and I've been privy to all this for decades, nobody is more serious about putting their money where their mouth is. Whether it's the turkey stamp, making money off of us, whatever. I've seen the money that goes into research, and that's where his head is. That's where the idea came from. Now, where those funds are going, Toxey's going to have to answer that. But I can tell you that nobody walks the walk better than him. Yeah, he's my boss. He's also my buddy. I've been knowing him for a long time. And man, that fires me up to know that money is going to research, because that's what trips his triggers, finding out answers to questions. Didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine. So, 100% is going to wild turkey research. And the first, and actually, I have to give credit where credit's due. Is the whole company's behind it. My son Daniel thought of this, and so they've also developed a system to fund research called Gamekeeper Grants. And it's not to say that we might not come across another really important effort to fund besides research, but right now 100% is wild turkey research. We have some professors at, just like Dr. Chamberlain, Marcus Lashley, Adam Butler here in Mississippi. I mean, there's others around the country. We're getting advice from those people on what is the most important research going on. We just funded one on LP. We think it's going to be the most definitive research on LPDV, which is lymphomatic something virus. It is maybe the most prevalent disease in turkeys today. We just don't know for sure. I found a turkey 3 years ago dead 2 or 3 days after the season on my place. Called the game warden. He said, put it in the cooler. I'll get it tomorrow. Ended up, even though it only looked like it'd been dead like a day, it almost had decayed too much to figure out what had happened. So they got it to the lab and got it, and Adam Butler, our state biologist, called me, and they finally determined it was LPDV. And so he was explaining to me it's a virus, and it is something that is very prevalent now more and more. It's not necessarily something that always kills them, but it can. It certainly killed this one. It was a Jake. But he said it's kind of like almost the way he described to me, maybe like lead poisoning. They carry it their whole life. And it would also explain like they just don't feel good, and I don't feel like gobbling. I don't feel like, in a hen instead of 10 eggs, she might not lay 2, or she might not lay any at all. And in a lot of cases, it does kill them. But it is one of those things, it's kind of a mystery, and we know it's very prevalent. And so we can't mess around and take chances of not knowing. I know there's a bunch of great people, great researchers all over the country, and they care deeply about all this. We just want to put wind in their sails on the advice of, the professionals in that research industry. I just feel like it's one thing for me to theorize or Cuz to theorize, whatever. We need hardcore, definitive, quantitative research telling us what's going on. And what I've learned so far, just my opinion, it's a very complex issue. What's going on in Florida is different than what's going on in Oklahoma. They're having a terrible time out there. It's different than Mississippi. That's different from, whatever, Maine. And so there's, to me, 3, 4, 5 issues throwing headwinds at turkeys right now. And we need to know what's going on everywhere. So everywhere we can, especially where we can donate money and they can get, 10 times more because of that from the government to fund the research, we're going to be doing that everywhere we can to help get answers. And then also, when we get answers, help people do something about it. That's the whole gamekeeper thing in a nutshell, is like, let's take control, let's take responsibility, and let's take matters into our own hands as hunters. I mean, I'm blue in the face because knows I'm going to say, if you got 4 acres, 400, 4,000, doesn't matter. Let's take matters in our own hands. Well, how can you ask everybody out there that loves turkeys and has a place to take care of them if we don't even know to tell them what to do? That's why research is so critical. And I promise you, I won't keep going on about it, wasting people's time, but just know we are going to be pouring ourselves behind. My life is so important that we add to and the answers for the wild turkey, and we add to their existence. That's a lifetime project for me.
Very well said. And I can sincerely assure you that every single person in this webinar appreciate it as far as what you've built, Toxey, and what Mossy represents as a brand. It shines through very brightly what you guys are about in everything you do. So kudos to you and your entire team there. I want to say thank you to everybody that attended this webinar. We're going to throw the giveaway link for this shotgun in one more time. So if you're still here and haven't entered yet, do so while I'm talking. Toxey, Cuz, really appreciate your guys' time on the eve of opener. Wish you best of luck in the morning. And Toxey, I sure hope you can break in that Mr. Fox vest in the right way. And I know myself and everybody else still on here is excited to see Mr. Fox out in the woods this spring. And hopefully you guys can call him in another long beard.
Man, that would be great. Hey, everybody out there, and spread the word. It's the most magical season of the year. It makes for such a great life for having this privilege. It is I always call it's the season of rebirth. I get just listening to you talk to us, and then knowing people are listening, it's giving me chill bumps because I know people all over the place are going to hit the woods in the morning and get to experience it. So, always give us feedback. We come to work every day for all those people. So let us know. And have a great spring. I'm excited. I'm pumped. You got me pumped up. I've been so big. I'm fixing to get my vest. I'm gonna get a bite to eat, but then I'm fixing to make this vest and turn it into this vest.
Jared, I just want to say thanks to onX and their team. I mean, you guys care. It ain't like you put your apps out there and you do. I mean, you guys go a mile. You need to go an extra mile when you get my age, you know, and you got great how-to and stuff. But the fact y'all get involved in conservation and all that, kudos to y'all, buddy. I appreciate it.
Big time.
Well, yeah, thank you guys. Sentiment is the same. Can't wait till the next time that we get to link up and, you know, share a turkey seat or whatever we end up doing next time. I'd love to share the turkey woods with both of you, as I'm sure everyone on this call would. So we'll live vicariously through you until then. So everybody have a great night. Best of luck this spring in the turkey woods. Toxey and Cuz will be keeping an eye on the socials to see how you do in the morning.
Hey man, thanks for having us on and thanks for onX. What a great tool. It's changed everything in hunting for everyone. Thanks.
Appreciate it, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Have
brother.
a good night.